Hi everybody, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome to C-Suite Strategy, Elevate Every Move, Scale Beyond. And our topic of discussion today is the missing KPI in your leadership dashboard. What's your team safety score? Your go-to podcast on tech, cyberspace strategy growth. I am Prem Kumar AS and I am your host today to explore what is the missing KPI. A special welcome to all tuned to Power of Knowing Forum's weekly podcast series, episode 286 on LinkedIn Live today. We have the honor of Kavina Elavarasan, leadership communication strategist, helping leaders speak with energy, clarity, and cultural impact. Founder of Empower Her, Bangalore, joining us today. Let's welcome our esteemed speaker to our podcast event and dive into the topic. Hi, Kavina.
Hello, hi
Welcome
Prince.
to.
Hello
How
everyone.
are you?
I've been doing really well. Thank you very much. How are you?
Good, Kavana. A small intro about your journey to the audience so that we can connect you to the audience.
Absolutely. I'd love to do that. So it's been a decade of experience in corporate, and looking at my journey, it has been anything but a straight line. I've performed various roles in an organization, and as an engineering leader, managing various products. What I've figured out is that we all love the timelines and various KPIs that is there on the dashboard, right? So, like most leaders, I too thought success was all about hitting targets and delivering results. That's how I felt. But over years, I noticed something really strange because there are multiple teams in any organization given, right? But if you look at the same kind of people working in the same kind of project with same tools, same deadlines, there could be various performance results from the teams. So that's something which really caught my attention. And that is when I realized and I began to see that leadership isn't about what you say, but it is about how people feel in your presence. And if you see, there are different leaders when they talk, the kind of emotional aftertaste that they leave on people is quite different. And the way it shapes the teams is quite amazing. So when I discovered this, I became too passionate working about this particular topic. Today, I help leaders discover that missing KPI in their dashboards, which is the team safety score. That's how I call it. Because legacy isn't just about what you build, but it is that emotional climate that we leave behind that shapes culture, team, and the high performance. So that's the work that I do right now, the book that I'm writing as well.
Wonderful. I think that's the pointer that we are looking at. I'm hearing this for the first time. Team safety score. This is really nice. Why is team safety score the missing KPI leaders cannot afford to ignore now? Is what we want to understand from you as a first question to you, Kavana.
Lovely. So leaders, they all love dashboards, they love KPIs. If you look at the dashboard which we currently have right now, we have revenue, we have timelines, we have engagement scores, all the numbers which is quite buzzing on the leadership dashboard. But none of those predict the culture, and culture is like a game changer when it comes to the teams. So the real missing tile, let's say in your leadership dashboard, is how safe people feel around the leader. So I read this Google's Aristotle project. So what they did is they ran like a huge project where they wanted to see which is a high performing team. So what they did is they put people together, they formed different teams structures, different configurations, and they saw which is that team which performed really high. So that is when they understood that the team which performed high is not because of talents, it's not because of any other factors, but the number one predictor of the team's high performance is a psychological safety. So
Hmm.
my work reframes this as a KPI, which is a team safety score. Because here is the truth. Your presence is either safety deficit that you're making or a withdrawal of safety in your team. So without this measure, what happens is that leaders blindly run the teams. Today it may be giving them great results, but if the team is running today without the right kind of safety score, tomorrow it will come down crashing. So that is why I tell that the energy or the safety score that I'm mentioning right now is going to be a number one KPI that we all have to start tracking because tomorrow it is very important.
No, I think the KPIs are very, very important to be tracked, right? The key performance indicators. Where the performance is lagging is what we look at, right? Now, what is in me as a frontline IC analyst or an engineer when it comes to KPI? Because we've seen KPIs only looking at the senior level. Those are the places where we speak more about KPIs. Will KPIs be impacting the engineers also, or we can look KPIs for them as well? That's the point that I want to understand from you.
That's a beautiful question, Prem, because the more we talk about leaders, the less that we speak about the frontline engineers and analysts. Uh, for frontline talent, safety is not the abstract way that we think, but it is more like a daily reality for them. How do
Hmm.
they feel safe to raise a bug, to disagree with the leader, or to even admit that, hey, I'm stuck at a problem? Or even to the risk that they foresee that okay there is a deadline with that we cannot match. How do they handle it? So it becomes a daily reality for them based on how is the safety score in their team. When the safety is really high, what happens is they feel more safer to raise problems, solve problems earlier. The kind of cycle time that they take is really less. The voice becomes more stronger for them. Whereas if the safety is again low, they don't have that environment to perform well. So my message is that for the frontline team, it is very simple for them, yet very important as well. Safety is like that bridge between their expertise and the impact. If as leaders we could come and bridge, they can really be working impactful.
What I see is you will have to look at the safety correlates with faster life cycle time and fewer rewrites. Kind of what we want to look at. There is an easy way to look at metrics, and that has to be with a cycle. Faster cycle is what we're trying to look at. Am I right in saying that?
True. Yes, very true.
How exactly do you define team safety score and what does it include? Because parameterization of the key performance indicators is one thing that is very important. So, how do we look at team safety score?
Absolutely. Yes. You brought the right one on the parameterization. So, when we talk about team safety score, I would like all of us to think of it as that health check of the team's safety feeling. So, this includes various factors. Number one, how often people speak up in the meetings, in the conversations, all of that. The second thing is how much dissent is welcomed in the project environment. Are they feeling safe enough and courageous enough to speak? The third health check is about whether the risks are flagged early or it's just coming out as a problem later on. The fourth one is that whether the feedback is candid or they are guarding themselves, they want to give a very polished feedback, or sometimes it's silenced, they don't want to give feedback at all. So, putting all of this together, I call this the SCORE model, SCORE model. So, what S stands for is the speak up. Are the team members really speaking up during meetings? If they are silenced, it means they are not feeling safe. The second letter C stands for challenge. Are they challenging themselves to bring the boldest ideas rather than the safest ones? O stands for openness, how open they are in terms of sharing what they feel. Do they speak only when they can put their thoughts polished, or they can talk raw as an idea? Because it really matters. If the frontline team is bringing polished ideas, it means they are not bringing at all. We need to give them the safe environment where they can go openly share even the rawest of ideas. So now moving on to the next one, R stands for risk sharing. How early that they are catching the risks and telling it to the leaders. If they are not feeling safe enough, they are going to bring it too late. And then the risk is going to have an impending effect on the management and the project. So that is R. E from the SCORE model, E stands for empathy. How do they feel empathetic about the situation? So these are nothing but the SCORE SCORE model. These are the everyday currencies of trust, which is happening in daily interactions, daily meetings, daily project discussions, which is happening. So it's better that we start measuring them every month, every day, and not yearly. If we can measure sales, we can absolutely measure safety as well. And it's very important to measure.
I'll just take one note of it. When you say S is for speak, right? C is for
Yes. S is for speak up, C is for challenge,
okay.
O for openness, R for risk sharing, and E for empathy.
I'm just taking a note of it so that we can put this on the scroll somewhere. Okay, great on that.
Sure.
How is TSS different from engagement or satisfaction metrics, which was tracked earlier, right? So how
Yes.
different is it now?
Oh, thanks for asking that question. Sometimes when we talk about the safety score, people quite often think it is nothing but the engagement score. So,
Okay.
engagement survey, which is prevalent right now, even in the leadership dashboard, and there are a lot of surveys around it. If you look at the
Hmm.
engagement surveys, it tells how people felt about that past quarter.
Okay.
We can think of engagement as the history, and that's
Hmm.
like that lagging indicator of how people are engaged in the teams. And safety, what we are talking right now, is a leading indicator. We can think of safety as a future, right? It predicts whether people will surface the next challenge, the next risk, the next assumption, or even bringing that boldest ideas, which will shape the innovation of the team later on. So, quite often, what happens is that we confuse happy with being safe. The team can be really satisfied, very engaged, and all that, but they can still feel silent. So, now we have to understand that the safety is quite different than engagement. So, engagement is like a lagging indicator, engagement is history, and safety is your future.
Got it, Kauna. So I pasted what Kauna said on the chat box of our podcast, so you can refer it later. And that's the model that Kauna is speaking about. Now, coming to the next pointer, we are seeing is what early warning signs reveal low team safety score.
So, the number one early sign that a leader can catch from their team is the silence. People stop raising their hand in the meeting. They only open their mouth for what is supposed to be told, and then they do not want to talk about. You can also see their updates being very polished. If there is a brainstorming meeting, they don't bring the raw idea, but then they only bring ideas which is like super polished. So
Hmm.
and then the real talk does not happen in the meetings. It'll only happen in the DMs or in the water cooler conversation. But what matters is the real conversation which happens in the meetings, right? So all of these are pretty early sign that we can catch as leader. So to put things together, silence, not speaking up in the meetings, and the side chatter or the real conversations which happens outside and not the in between the meetings. So these are certain things that show up when the safety is already low. So the first symptom of a low safety is silence. And what is important is that people bring their raw self, people bring their whole self, people bring their healthy conflicts that they can bring in. So these are the real things that should happen in the team today, so that it shapes the performance, it shapes the creativity, innovation later on. So this is certain early signs that I would say that the leaders can catch if their team safety score is low.
I recall one incident where we were talking about where silence was one thing that killed us in an organization, right? So one of the most performing leader was not at all talking up. So when we found this, and suddenly we saw his resignation, and when we found out what was the main reason for this, is he was not heard at all. So he was told what to be done rather than what he was doing was helping, but he was told not to do things. He was told only to do these things. He was instructed rather than given an opportunity to do his passionate work, and which I think he was not able to get the support which he needed to bring up the team, right? So that's where I think that silence killed most of the pointers that a leader wanted to take, right? So that's, I think, one pointer that I will take from what you are saying. Coming to our next point, now, what does low safety look like in a day-to-day ritual stand-ups, reviews, one-on-one, one-on-ones? Do we get to know it from there?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And day to day, you can see low safety, which is as a culture which is built in various teams. Let's say, for
Hmm.
example, stand up. If everyone comes to the stand up and says all good,
Hmm.
the status is always good. Nobody wants to admit that I've made a mistake. Let's say in a one on one conversation, people politely nod and they never open up what they feel, how they want a change to happen. They would not speak at all. They would sit and politely nod when there's a one on one conversation. Let's say in retrospective meetings, lot of agile movement which is happening right now. When there is a retrospective, nobody puts out a point because retrospective is all about how do we improve further as a team. And if the team is not opening up, it does not mean that the project is happening well. It means that nobody wants to bring a risk. Nobody wants to speak up during the meeting. So these kind of rituals, right? Stand ups, one on ones, retros, speak a lot and speak the truth about the culture. If the everyday conversations are cautious that I'm going to guard myself really high, it very clearly means that the team safety score, TSS, is very low. And my advice or my one line is that we as leaders figure out that there is a low safety score which is happening and embed it in our leadership to bring the safety score really high.
Thank you, Kavana. I think I am getting few pointers where we are seeing this kind of issues, which where team members don't want to talk at all, saying I'll get offended or I'll be pushed not to give my views. My views are not heard. What I told works, but we are not in a capacity to do things like that, and that becomes a real bottleneck. Rituals reveal culture. Watch them. So I think that's a very important pointer that we should look at. Coming to our this one now, you should call safety an energetic transaction. What does that mean in practice? Because I don't know safety as an energetic transaction. I'm not getting how exactly it is going to be looked at. Your
Yes.
take on it.
So I want to, cite a neuroscience in this. So
Mhm.
what happens is that we are all this. We have a nerve called as vagus nerve, which is like the longest nerve, which stems at the back of our brain and goes all the way down. So what happens is that in the neuroscience, all of us are like this signal transmitter and signal receiver. So we are constantly transmitting signal, whether we like or not. We both are sitting here. You are transmitting. I am transmitting. Similarly, we are also receiving signal, and we are constantly analyzing if the signal that I'm receiving is a threat or it is trustworthy environment. So what happens is that when we constantly do this as a human being, the weight of what the energy that a leader is transmitting is really high than anybody else. I'm talking only about the team situation. So what happens is any smallest of a word that a leader speaks or a body language change that a leader speaks, the team is sitting there constantly analyzing, am I safe in this environment or there is a threat? And when I say threat, I'm not talking about a fire alarm which has happened or a tiger, you've spotted a tiger. The threat that the brain can actually process, can you believe 200 millisecond, less than 200 millisecond is what a human brain takes to process a threat. And threats, when I say, is not big. It is as simple as a change in the tone of your boss. And these are all high performing biology that I'm talking about, and it is so very happening every minute. So why I call this energy transaction is because any smallest of a change in the communication or a conversation from the leader affects the nervous system of the team. And that's why I call this energy transaction. It is not very spiritual but very true. It's the high performing biology that I talk about. And any leader who leaves the meeting room doesn't just leave the meeting room, but then they linger in the mind of people, because it's basically the energy transaction which has happened. So that is why I call it the energy transaction. And it is very important for the leaders to understand that when I stand there as a leader, I'm basically emitting certain signal, and I'm directly talking to the nervous system of the team members.
Now, what you are saying is, I recall few people entering a room. There are talks everything, even before they can put a
Absolutely.
word. So, when you have such leaders, then after the discussion is over, also their presence is felt there, and it's kind of there where, oh, okay, what did happen now? This is what we heard. It's a great idea, and we keep thinking there. We don't come out of that discussion for some time. I think the present sets safety as a thermostat there, right? So you stick there for some time, and I think that's what you're trying to say. How do leaders unconsciously transmit anxiety or safety through micro behaviors? Because you spoke just now about that, where you said you can feel a threat in 200 milliseconds, right? So I think little more detail on how we can look at this as a pointer, Kavina.
Sure. So, as I mentioned, the signal is something which is, constantly getting transmitted and getting received. When it is a leader, it is like the proportion of the weightage that the body language or their words carries is really high. Let's say,
Mm.
for an example, we might have come across such a situation where there is a meeting and there's a room where all of them, the whole team member comes together. They are very happy, happily chit chatting. You can look at their body language, very happy and ongoing. But then the energy of the room, which is very lively right now, quickly changes when the leader walks in.
Mm.
And that is the energy. If the leader walking in is very anxious, let's say the leader just walked out of a very difficult meeting, and then people can actually sense the energy that this person is carrying. Clenched jaws, his hands being very tight, very firm body language, the way they come sit. So this
Mm.
is an indication, and people just don't listen to the words. They process the energy even before they can listen to the words. So that becomes the emotional climate of the room. From where they were very lively and happening, shifts into a very stern conversation where the body language of the entire team changes. That's why I call it thermostat. So leaders are the thermostat. They set the emotional climate of the team or meeting room for that particular time. They should not be thermometers where they measure the emotional climate, but rather the thermostat. Because now we know that the leaders are like, they can actually have a huge weightage in terms of how the emotional climate of the team can be set. So now, with awareness, they can be actually setting what kind of emotional climate that they can be setting in. So then the safety prevails, culture is shaped better, and tomorrow the performance is really high.
If I can add TSS to a dashboard, what exactly should I be measuring it on a monthly basis?
Great. So I would say four leading indicators that we can keep in the TSS dashboard. One
Mhm.
is the speak up frequency of
Okay.
every member in the team. Not just one, or not just the leads, or not just the person who has the most experience, or even not just the person whom the leader likes. But the speak
Mm.
up frequency of everyone has to be the same. The
Okay.
second indicator that I would like to keep is the dissent ratio. How much of healthy conflicts happens, because no individual's idea is a good idea. Because when I go
Mm.
sit as a leader, I do not give my ideas at all, because the leader gives their idea at the beginning, right? It becomes
Yeah.
the decision that the entire team will go through it. So dissent ratio is second. How much a person says, and then they're like, hey, this idea is nice. Can we tweak it this way? So that is your dissent ratio. Or even disagreements, they this will not even work, right? The next one
Hmm.
is near miss reporting. So near miss reporting is something which is borrowed from the aviation or healthcare. So it
Okay.
talks about the mistakes that they have gone through and then how do they admit it. So that near miss ratio is another thing. How many risks are brought onto the table? So that is another one.
Hmm.
So speak up frequency, dissent ratio, near miss reporting. And one thing that I want to add is, just like you do this engagement surveys and all of that, it is also better that we do a short safety pulse survey.
Okay.
So this way we'll keep understanding what is the score, because again, it is not like engagement where people say, I'm happy for the last quarter, but this is a constantly churning. Today, my team may be feeling very safe, but I will sit on the table and let's say somebody brings a very raw idea and then I simply dismiss it. Maybe I did not mean to dismiss it. It's just that I feel that there is no time. We need to finalize something and then say, hey, no, let's talk about it later. Hey, I like your idea. So it may be as simple as it. What happens is that not just that person, but everybody around is looking at it. Tomorrow, nobody is going to bring rough ideas.
Hmm.
So this is something which is going on every day. So these are four leading indicators that I feel that we need to keep a constant check on. Because when we measure the moments that matter, that is what will give us a direct proportionate of the safety score of our team.
Now we are talking about a team, right? So it is a collective feedback, right? Team safety indicator is a collective feedback. What are the top leading indicators you would include for predictive team safety score? Because it is a collective thing and every person is different in what they do. How do you collectively take that analysis?
Got you. So let's zoom in a bit more. Uh, how do we predict TSS is a leader can look at the time to raise a risk.
Hmm.
What do I mean is, how long does it take for the team or a team member to raise a risk which is coming?
Hmm.
In safe teams, the risk surfaces really quickly, or even the raw, okay, it might happen. They're not very sure, but they are giving a alert to the leader quite early. So that is safe team. If you look at unsafe teams, the risks linger in silence for a very long time until it becomes a crisis. So this is one of
Hmm.
the strongest predictor of the safety health of the team. So it is like time to raise the risk. How long does they take to raise a risk? So this is one. The second one is the question to answer ratio. What do I mean by this is, if we can track whether the team members are asking questions and the leaders are engaging with it. So that is the time, the question to answer ratio. If there is a decline in the questions, which means there is unsafe climate and the curiosity of people is also declining. For example, you mentioned about a leader who's been told what to do. He was not given that authority to do things. So what happens here is that there is a decline in curiosity. Okay, leader will tell, I will go back and do. So then
Hmm.
there is no questions which is getting raised. So the rising ratio means people trust and are their voices matter. So this is again another ratio which can be caught during the meetings. The next one I told about is this never miss reporting rate. So
Hmm.
what happened is, I just wanted to cite one case study which happened. So in one of the leading healthcare hospital, they constantly saw that the number of mistakes done by the doctors, which got reported by the doctors, was high only in case of this high performing team of doctors, the super specialized doctors. And this was a constant question to a lot of people as to, they are this high performing doctors. Why is that they are the ones who are doing the highest of mistakes? And then they realized, or they found out in the study, that because the psychological safety of that particular team is too high, that they are very safe to be actually admitting. that there was mistake. So what really happens is that the more mistakes that they are able to admit, the more ownership, and then they will be able to learn and get the better outcomes. So that is that near misreporting rate. So this is happening in aviation and healthcare. So what people do is that when there is a problem, they come back and they report. So if there is a high near misreporting, it means it's a proactive culture and a safe culture that, hey, I do a mistake, I can come and tell. And then they all learn, everybody learns together and grows to become a high performing team. If the reporting is really low, it means it's a fear driven silence which is happening.
Hmm.
Judgmental space. I may be penalized, I may be punished.
Punished.
And
I
then
think
one more thing is,
I think
sorry,
what
there's
you're
one.
saying is
Hmm,
one is I am a high performer. My mistakes are my lessons as well, right? So kind of, right? Can we say like
I
that?
would say, even for high performers, if they are there in an unsafe environment, if they feel their environment is unsafe, even they will not report.
You're right. What I'm trying to understand from your pointer is these doctors. You are saying they were
Hmm,
making mistakes and they were learning on it. That's what you mentioned, right? Now that's a safe environment for them, right? Now if
correct.
you look at safe environment, they are able to do mistakes, and those mistakes they quickly correct also. Are we saying that way?
Yes, we say so. I wouldn't relate to high performing doctors. They are happy to be reporting their errors. If the
Hmm.
high performing, there are every project, every team has high performers, but will they admit? Not really.
No.
It depends on the team environment, the team safety score, the TSS score. If the TSS score is high today, maybe there are only one or two performers. But if you as leader create that, high perform not the safety score really high, everybody will start admitting, and you will be able to shape a high performing team. Tomorrow a lot of people will become a high performer.
Got it. Got it. Come on. Then. Now, coming to our next point, can you share a research linking safety to hard outcomes like maybe quality, maybe safety standards, or kind of a revenue that also can? Can you help us with that pointers?
Sure. So when I talk about energy transaction safety, people look at it like a very soft topic. It is definitely not. Safety definitely has a hard ROI. So
Mhm.
studies show that teams with higher safety make better decisions, learn faster, innovate better. Even the case study which I just quoted, right? That hospital with the high reporting of the this thing, reporting of errors due to safety, have had better outcomes. So in software or any other industry that you look at, safety correlates with the defect discovery, moving earlier, reducing the cost of fixes, which is really getting higher. So I call this the LQI, which means number one, if the safety is prevalent in the team, number one is learning, the next one is quality, and the third one is impact. And safety drives learning, and learning drives quality, and quality end drives the revenue as well. So these are all tangibles which is getting linked to the ultimate safety quotient of the team. So safety converts to revenue, and not just indirectly, but the most reliable way.
I think I'll refer to cybersecurity when we look at, right? So when we look at how an organization is valued is the way their data is protected or the assets are protected, right? Now what you are saying is the same but in a different context, not in a cybersecurity context, but if they feel secure, they'll perform more and they will voice out more.
Yes.
And that pointers can lead into innovations that can be helped in problem solving, which goes on hand in hand where the discussions go very neatly and they have their voice to be heard and they have multiple options to evaluate. Am I saying
True.
that is
Yes,
the
very
way
true.
what you're looking at? Okay, great. So that get term into a team. a strong team building. That is one thing that I think what we are trying to see, right?
Absolutely. The strong team building that you mentioned.
What practical steps raise TSS fast without new tools or budgets or anything like that?
So yes, without tools or budget, it definitely can be, practically brought in into a team.
Mhm.
My suggestion would be to start small, and my favorite is this challenge first round in the teams. So if you look at the psychological safety again, one of the predominant or the most fundamental thing of a team has to be that they should have that openness and a feeling that they can have healthy conflicts. So you can have
Hmm.
this challenge first round before you start the meeting. So invite people to talk about what is that something which they think is not going well. So ask for dissent, ask for disagreement, and openly ask, so that it makes people open their
Hmm.
voices. Otherwise, generally we all have a feeling that, let me be safe, I will not talk something which will ruffle feathers. So asking people to actually challenge the status quo is the most effective way where we can start building that culture and telling people that this is very safe, go and do it. And within weeks you can see a shift in the emotional climate. And all you can ask is to, you can rotate voices. If they are not talking, you can say, today I would like to hear, and we pick and
Hmm.
choose so that everybody has a time to talk. And this costs does not cost any money with respect to your tools or budget, but the return here is really huge. We can start seeing the faster surfacing of risks, of problems, and even the ideas which otherwise would not have been spoken. So my simple suggestion would be that invite dissent, and you can watch the speed rise really high for the team members.
I think you're asking people to agree and disagree as well. So, kind of.
True.
So, you can agree on certain terms, and this is what I don't disagree. Rather than saying I am not accepting it, my view is I don't agree for this pointer because I can look at it in a different perspective, right? Uh, that's
True.
a
And
important
also to
point.
respectfully agree or respectfully disagree somebody, and making that a new norm in the team, which otherwise I have not seen many projects or people having that kind of a thought process existing in the team.
I think what should senior leaders communicate incidents to protect safety and credibility, because uh, today credibility is one big challenge, right? It is a credible source. Has it been copied from somewhere, or it has been an example that has been used somewhere? How is that taking shape when you look at this TSS score?
So you're asking more from the leader's perspective,
Yeah.
right? How they can be embodying.
Yes.
Great. So again, very, very simply put, I would like to talk about those micro moments, but very powerful moments that the leader will be shaping this TSS. The first 2 minutes of a meeting.
Hmm.
How are we opening? Are we opening with an urgency? Or are we opening with what has left us behind from the previous conversation? Really matters when we start the meeting. S- if we open the meeting, let's say the project is in a very critical situation. Many of us has gone through this. Do we get into the meeting and ask, why are we behind this? What is happening in the team? I want to know now. This could be
Hmm.
one way of opening, right? Or the other way of opening is just to acknowledge presence of the team members, yet we are in a critical situation, but just opening, telling that, hey, good to see you all, let's align on what matters today.
Hmm.
The shift
Yeah.
is really
Shift.
huge. So the first 2 minutes of a meeting, how the leader opens is really critical. And Harvard research says that the first 90 seconds of a meeting, the employees emotionally mirror the leader's tone. The situation that we spoke, right? The meeting was very happy and all of that. The leader came in and everybody shifted their entire body language. So the first 90 seconds is important. If the leader is aware of those first 90 seconds, and if they can start it really well, it can that first 2 minutes can actually shape the next 2 hours of healthy conversations. The second thing is, very important thing, is who the leader listens to the most, because listening is absolutely the leadership currency, and everybody talks about active listening being one of the core skill of a leader. So listening is a currency. So who the leader nods or gives constant eye contact to is something which matters the most in setting the culture and the emotional climate of the team. He may think that, hey, my senior voice, my right hand, the technical person, 20 years of experience, all of that might be inside. But what really happens is slightly a nod, a slight eye contact to them will actually make the juniors silenced. And if
Hmm.
you only listen to those people, the innovation in your team dies. Nobody wants to talk. It's only the seniors who's talking, right? So it is very important for a leader to know that every eye contact that they make is either a green light to certain people or a red light to somebody's voice, and that red light is a is a major game changer. And that becomes the small things that you do, right? It becomes ripples, and these ripples create the culture. Another thing which I want to tell is the first response to the bad news is another thing which is very important, and this one is really huge. How the leader reacts or gives their first reaction to a bad news becomes the filter for the other members to bring this up again. Let's say somebody brought a risk. If the leader is telling, hey, why didn't you raise this early? Why did you come now? Is one way of answering. Or other way of answering was, hey, thanks for raising this. Now let's look at how do we fix this early. It is a huge game changer when it comes to the team feeling very safe with this leader. And another
I,
one that I wanted to highlight is how the leader handles a dissent. Because innovation doesn't come from agreement, it only comes from disagreement. Because one person's voice cannot become innovation, and that becomes like a unilateral innovation, right? So how the leader handles dissents is another thing. So if somebody tells even a rough idea, if you can lean forward and say, very nice idea, can you help me see the way you see it? I don't understand. Just leaning forward and giving the ears to them really helps. And when you push dissent as a leader, you can definitely buy innovation. If you do the other one, if you are not, you're against dissent, then we are buying silence from the team. So put all of this together, the tiny moments, the micro moments like a greeting, eye contact, a reaction, all of this is what is setting the emotional climate of the team. And what is it today that you do is going to create ripples, that is going to create culture tomorrow, and later it is going to sit on the annual report and we'll see as town hall numbers.
I had an experience in this scenario where we are working with a vendor, okay, and I've told this in my previous podcasts also. What this guy who was working for the vendor was my reportee as well earlier. So he's gone to
Okay.
the vendor this one now, and we both are in the same one project which he is supporting. And it so happened that there was a issue that happened, and we did not recognize that as a risk, as what you rightly said. So what we did was we were talking, and this guy now he is on the other side. You will talk good about the other side, right? You see, we did so much to you, that this and all the stuff. He is showing that he was giving us ideas. He people did not implement all the things. We heard for some time, and then we said, first you are this side, and now you are that side. The same discussion happened few months back when you are this side also. So let's respect
Mm.
each other. We know this kind of issues happen. This is where is the risk. Now, what is that you want to do? You will solve the problem of the customer, or you'll keep doing a discussion on this mistake. Do you have a plan, or you don't have a plan? And he said, "Sir, I have a plan." Then let's discuss the plan.
Wonderful.
So when we brought both together, is saying that bus everybody has a miss that happens, and that's a risk that we are taking, right? If you miss something, and that's why there is, as you rightly said, if you don't do a mistake, you don't understand what exactly went wrong there, right? And you don't innovate as well. So
True.
uh, from a dialed phone to a smartphone to a computer today, that's the innovation that we have been seeing. We
Absolutely.
somebody
And
found
innovation
that a
right
dial
now is
somebody
oh,
found a dial phone being not a healthy gadget. Now today we don't have anything that does not work on your mobile. We have everything working on a mobile. So somebody's discomfort is somebody a new innovation for us, right? So that is what I think what you are saying in as many words that you want to say, right? So thank you for that. Now coming
yes.
to looking at how do we prevent safety threat where leaders say right words but nothing changes.
When the leaders say the right things, is it?
Yeah, right words but nothing changes. I tell nice. After that nothing changes.
And this happens as well. Thanks for bringing
Yeah, it
such
does
a
happen. Yes.
the most relevant question, because when we talk about communication, right? By default, everybody thinks if I can talk fluently, good vocabulary,
Hmm.
polished language, they think I'm done. The communication is done, but actually, communication is a lot more to what we think as the fluency. So I talk about communication as a loop. So it all starts with the intention of what we want to speak. Let's say this I've seen most relevant in a lot of organizations where we talk about feedback. Why do I give feedback to my lead? Because my lead improves, so is the team. That
Hmm.
is the intent. But how do we actually communicate? We tell all polished words and think that I've passed on the feedback, but the outcome of it is how they feel when they walk out of that room. Do they feel criticized? Do they feel
Hmm.
judged? Do they feel like, I want to go into the shell? So this is the outcome. Maybe the intention is like, if my lead grows to the next level, my team grows. So that is the intention, very good intention. But then the way you've communicated, thinking that it is polished words, but the outcome is very different. So when I call it as a model loop, it doesn't even stop here, it goes to the next level. Again, it shapes the intention, because the culture in between is, you know bridging the gap between how this lead is going to more react to the situations, if he's going into the shell or he's going to be more proactive. It again shifts the intention of the, so this is going to be loops and loops of circles which is going to happen. And what happens is, together the leader and the team are going to co-create this culture. So again, safety isn't slogans. We all talk about big vision strategies, and there are even vision and mission statement which is posted on the walls of the organization. Safety is absolutely is not in the slogans. It really matters in every single interaction the leader brings on the table. And if the leader is more aware that what is my intention, if I can mirror it in my communication, which is far beyond that the polished words, and I have to really look at the outcome of the team. So that is when the safety doesn't really become just the right words, but it is a lot more than the words, than the body language, the intention that we carry, and even the energy. We all leak energy out of our system, conscious or unconscious. If I am stressed at work, and if I'm unconscious about it, I'm going to leak that stress out to people, and people can visibly see it. People can forget seeing, people can feel what is the energy that the leader is doing. So now the leader, what I would suggest is that the leader is more aware of what is that energy that they are carrying, and constantly keep a check on the intention and what we are communicating and the outcome, and keep looking at that culture, which is nothing but the team safety score, TSS, will put all of that in right balance for the team.
Very true pointers there. I think that's a lot more to take in the kind of explanation that we had as a discussion. Now coming to look at how do you localize TXS across cultures, remote, high power distance organization, because we are in a hybrid environment, right? Today, one is here, one is in Bombay, others, some are not in the country itself. So, teams are located in that kind of arrangement today. How do you look at this?
So how do we localize, right? As you mentioned, there's multiple, systems which are right now. They say some smart work, hybrid work, all of that is coming in picture. The more the configurations, the more the leaders has to be very aware. And
Yeah.
yes, as you mentioned, one size fit all actually fails. And especially if you're talking about, you also did mention about the high power distant culture. So what
Hmm.
happens in high power distant culture is forget dissent. There's no disagreements. And one of the example that you mentioned, that something gets told to the next level, and the next level just goes and performs. So in such cases, my suggestion is to do continuously go on the surveys, and the more anonymous channels that you create, it is much better. So even recently, I was in a leadership program where we were talking about how anonymously can we get surveys. So the number one survey that I do is create a Google form and tell people, go ahead and give the feedback. So when people give, we can actually guess who is giving what. And then I learned in this workshop that one of the leader has created a Gmail account and passed on the Gmail account with the password to the rest of the team, and went and told them that, hey, go ahead and write your feedback on that. So now this is one more higher level of the anonymous surveys that you can be taking. Now, people are not writing something in the work environment. People are going back to their home, logging in from some device and then giving it. And how beautifully the leader has thought through. And this is one key learning that I've had in my recent workshop. So creating anonymous channels, and constantly looking at, if you're working in let's say different cultures, then looking at cultural translators which can be there in the team. So it was few years back where I first started leading people from different location, Europe, here, there. And it was not something which was very easy for me to understand all of them. So I constantly kept asking cultural questions. So always when I start leading, in the meetings, I start bringing some cultural topics and start asking them questions. So the more and more we understand the culture, it was better for us to have this safety. So one time what happens is that we ran a survey, and I was asking my team, how do you all feel? Do you think I should have one on one with each of you so that you can raise your concerns directly with me? What one of my team member told me was very beautiful. So he told me that, Kavina, the culture is so good in our team that we do not need a one on one with you. If I think something is bad, if I have to pass on a feedback, I can right royally do it in the meeting right now in front of all of them. And that's the culture that we have formed. And to me, hearing something like that, a person who was really afraid of leading a multicultural team, to the team member telling that we feel safe to actually pass on feedback to another member, was really great. So one size will not fit all, but constantly going in for the anonymous surveys and looking at the cultural translators in the team, all of that will really help in building the safety score. So we have to basically design safety for the context.
I'll tell a cultural story that I think we in South India at least will speak at least two, three languages minimum, right? Now
Yes.
you have teams across Andhra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala, and you know four languages. The way you can gel with them is next level. I tell you, my experience is that now you go and speak their native language, they forget English. Then the whole conversation is at different level, and you get
True.
things done just like that. It happens like that. You don't need to say anything to them. They feel that they are connected. So that is one thing I had the privilege of. For me, I know five languages, which five, six languages I can speak and talk, speak
Wow.
and do that. Four is by states here: Karnataka, Andhra, Tamil Nadu. My mother tongue is Telugu, so I know Telugu. I'm brought up in a place where Tamil is a prominent place, which is KGF. And
Nice.
Kerala has been my project space where I've been working on most of the projects. My parents are from
Nice.
Andhra. So all four are kind of a languages which we know normally.
Lovely.
And Hindi is kind of a thing that we understand. Adding to Hindi, some part of Oriya, Punjabi, I can understand. So that's
Oh,
the
wow.
pointer. Now I went to Kerala, I'm able to talk to the client. I go to Andhra, I'm able to talk to the client. Once you bring that closeness to the culture, the ball game itself shifts. That's one thing
Absolutely.
I've seen in cultural way of handling teams projects. So I had that privilege working in MNC which had projects across these four states and on north
Mhm.
also. So it was a different experience. Now we are talking about localizing teams across cultures, remote teams. This is what I thought I'll bring it up when we speak about this pointer. Now, on to the final question that I have in mind. How does the KPI reshape leadership legacy and performance reviews?
Absolutely. So when we talk about TSS, or let's say legacy, when we talk about legacy, again, it is not about what is the performance outcome or the success criteria that a leader has developed. Leadership legacy is about what people are speaking when you've left the room, what people are speaking when they might have worked with you 10 years back. How do they speak about you? And that is the leadership legacy that any of us are leaving behind. So if we have to have that kind of a environment, or when people think working with us, it's directly proportionate to how people felt around us. So there's a lovely wordings. It says people will forget what you speak, what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will not forget how you made them feel. And that
True.
is the legacy that we can be leaving behind as a leader that we are all in. If we can shape the climate where people are feeling safe, and that's a great feeling that we can be giving. Because we as humans, we constantly have this one part of our brain constantly keeping a check whether I'm safe or not. The moment they feel they are not safe, they go into this amygdala hijack, and then their logical brain shuts down. Then when the logical brain shuts down, we all know how much of work gets done. And what happens is that this will again create a ripple, and a person may not have directly impacted with that leader, but just because of this cultural shift, they do not feel good working in such an environment. So I feel leadership legacy is about how the leader has made the team feel, even long after they have stopped working or long after that meeting is even done.
I think very important pointers there, Puna. I would like to summarize on few pointers that we spoke about today on our discussion. Now that we have come to the pointers that we spoke about, missing KPIs leaders cannot afford to ignore. That is the first point that we spoke. Then we spoke about safety speeds your work, grows your voice. That's what we spoke. And there one thing that we spoke about team score. I would like to bring it again. I put it here. I'll make a scroll on it. So this is this pointer that we discussed, which we spoke about a framework or a model which is score model. Speak up, challenge, openness, risk and empathy is one thing that we spoke about. Then we spoke about how a clear score makes cultural differences in terms of what is missing, how anonymous feedbacks can be looked at, speak up, open feedback, reporting, empathy, all those pointers that we spoke about. Then we spoke about how we can look at a low team score as a warning, and how what is the silence of a leader or a silence of a performer makes a difference in the whole structure of the team. Score is what we spoke about. Anxiety kind of behaviors we spoke about, and we spoke one pointer which needs to look at dashboard and what can be measured. Those are the pointers that we discussed today. And we spoke also on some research on linking safety to a revenue or a quality or a standard is what we spoke about. This is what we spoke about in the last 1 hour. Time flew and we had a very good conversation. Thank you for joining us. Any last minute word pointers that you want to add to the audience before we conclude?
I just want all of us hearing right now, be it leaders or not, uh, just being aware that we are constantly interacting with another person, not just on a physical level or a mental level, but understanding that we are constantly interacting with the nervous system of the other people and being aware about it and leading ourselves as a leader is something that I wanted to share. Even in
Great.
parenting, how are
True.
we parenting? Because we are constantly interacting with the nervous system. If the child is not responding logically or is in an amygdala hijack, which meaning they are very emotional, they are either fighting or they are frozen or they are
Mm.
flying away, we understanding that we are interacting with another person's nervous system and we could lead ourselves in a way that we are making the other person feel safe. I feel not just at organizations, we can actually be leading the world better.
True on that, Kavina. And for the audience, we have streamed this podcast live to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Hope you found this discussion valuable and thank you for joining us. Our next podcast is going to be the 287th podcast on the 2nd of September at 6:30 p.m. with a new topic. Looking forward to see you again. Good day and bye to the audience and bye, Kavina. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me here.